record. All right, so this is our second nutrition Zoom call during the April NXPT FRC, and we're gonna do some Q&A on the call, and then kind of just have a little bit of a discussion, see how things are going week 3, and yeah, and go from there. So first question is, how can I determine my macro ratio for fat loss? And so the first thing that you're going to want to do is you are going to want to go to the NXPT website, log in under the members only section, and select the nutrition. There's like a drop down menu, and select the nutrition tab. And the very first PDF worksheet on there is the calorie calculator worksheet. And so you are going to calculate the total amount of calories that you want to aim for to be consuming in the day, and then the ratio that you want to aim for is, let me see if I can put it in the chat box here. It kind of depends on what your preferences are. Like, do you tend to prefer like fattier foods, or do you tend to prefer like carbs? Because you can kind of change the ratios of what you're eating based on your preferences. So I would say if you are somebody that tends to prefer like carbohydrate foods, you could do like 40% of your calories coming from carbohydrate. And then you could do, let's see, 40, and then we'll do 25%. Uh-oh, here I go doing math in public. Where's my calculator? Okay, so we're gonna do 40, 25, and then that gives us 35. Okay, so 40 carbohydrate, I'm writing this in the chat box, 40% of total calories, carb, and then 25% protein, and then 35% fat. So you could do something like that. You can also slide those percentages around, like if you tend to want a lower carbohydrate diet, or I would kind of choose 25 to 30% on your protein, and then you can kind of balance your carbohydrate and fat ratios. If you're using the MyFitnessPal app, you can actually do this in the app. You can set your total calorie goal. Let's say that it's 1,600 calories, and then you can go in and you can kind of alter the macronutrients and make sure that it adds up to 100, and you can kind of play around with the percentages. So that's kind of the breakdown, and then that would be calories. So then to figure out like the grams of macronutrients, you would divide the calories for carbohydrate and protein each by 4, and that will give you grams of those macronutrients. And then you'll divide the calories from fat by 9, and that will give you the grams of fat. So that's how you can figure out your macronutrient grams. So I'll put that in here too. So carbohydrate has 4 calories per gram. I'm gonna add one more person. 4 calories per gram. Protein, 4 calories per gram. And then fat has 9 calories per gram. There you go. Okay. Any other questions? Just drop them in the chat box. So I did want to kind of touch on just how to change your body composition. So you should have gotten your 3D fit scan, which is super cool, because not only does it tell you your body weight, which really is just your resistance against gravity. Your body mass doesn't really tell you very much, except for how much you are resisting gravity. What we care more about is the composition of our weight. So our body composition is made up of like 4 different compartments. So we have our skeleton, our bone, we have our muscle, we have our fat, and we have water and kind of everything else. So most people care most about when they want to lose weight, we want to lose fat tissue, right? We don't want to lose our muscle, and we don't want to lose our bone or anything else, and we have to stay hydrated. So the weight that you are going to be losing is you want it to come from your fat tissue. So the best way to do that with your nutrition is to make sure that you are eating protein with every single meal. I think I mentioned this the last Zoom call that we had, but protein actually has the highest what's called thermic effect of food. And so when we eat food, it actually takes calories, it takes energy to digest, absorb, transport, and metabolize that food. And so when we're looking at the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrate, and fat, protein actually takes the most calories to digest, absorb, transport, and metabolize it. So by making sure that you have protein at every meal, you are, number one, burning more calories. And number two, protein is very satiating. And what that means is that it fills you up and it keeps you full until your next meal. And so your protein intake should be spread out throughout the day at like your 3 meals, maybe 1 or 2 snacks. Protein foods in the morning tend to usually be eggs. Whole eggs are awesome. They're super nutritious. There's so much nutrition in yolks. But what you can do to add even more protein is you can have like 1 or 2 whole eggs and then add in egg whites. And you can either do this by like cracking the egg and only using the egg white, or at the grocery store, you can buy the cartons of egg white, the liquid egg white, and you can just add it. So you use like 1 or 2 whole eggs and then add liquid egg whites to increase the protein amount in your eggs. Other kind of breakfasty protein things are going to be Greek yogurt. I recommend Greek yogurt over traditional yogurt because it has a higher protein content. You just want to look and make sure that there is not a lot of sugar. I always say that there should be more protein than sugar in your yogurt. So when you're looking at the grams, you want the protein to be high, more than 10 grams, and then you want the sugar to be low, like less than 10 grams. And you want that to be the added sugar, not the total carbohydrate, but you want the added sugar to be less than 10 grams. So those are 2 good protein sources at breakfast. Other things could be cottage cheese. You could add protein powder into like a smoothie. You can also stir protein powder into like oatmeal. You can also stir egg whites into oatmeal. I would just make sure that you cook the oats first and then stir in the like liquid egg whites like right at the end. You don't want to cook the egg whites in the oatmeal like the whole time. You just want to like add them at the end. Other things you can do in the morning are overnight oats. And so this is actually a really cool meal prep hack where ahead of time, the night before or days before, you combine oats, Greek yogurt, any milk of your choice. So whether that's almond milk, soy milk, or regular cow's milk, and any like dried fruit or fresh fruit, and you put it into a container and you put it in the refrigerator. And then overnight, the oats actually soak up the liquid. And then in the morning, you can eat it cold. You can reheat it as well, but I kind of like it cold. It's a good kind of, now that we're getting into the warmer days, it's kind of a good like summer breakfast. And you can get a lot of protein in there when you add in like the Greek yogurt and the milk into your oatmeal and have the overnight oats. You can just kind of make a base with like just oats, milk, Greek yogurt, maybe a little vanilla, cinnamon, and then you can just have that as your base. And then in the morning, when you pull it out, you can add all of your toppings like fresh fruit, nuts. I recommend adding the nuts like when you're right before you're going to eat it, because you don't want the nuts to get like super soggy. You don't want the nuts to soak overnight. You just want the oats to soak overnight and soak up all the liquid. So overnight oats is another good way to boost your protein in the morning for breakfast. I know I already mentioned eggs, but something you can make with the eggs is mini egg cups. So if you have like a muffin tin, you can fill it, chop any type of vegetables that you like, bell peppers, broccoli, even like diced cooked potatoes. You can even do like rice or quinoa and put all the vegetables and then any of those carb foods if you want them into the muffin tins, and then fill up the muffin tins like 3/4 of the way with liquid egg white, and then bake it in the oven at like 350 for like 15 minutes. It's going to vary by oven, so just keep an eye on it. And then you'll have these little like egg cups that have vegetables in them. You can freeze those. You can, or just refrigerate them. You'll probably eat them really quickly. Those are good in the morning. Grab them to go, have them as snacks. You can also make ahead like mini like breakfast burritos or like breakfast wraps. So if you get like whole wheat tortillas or like the thin wraps, you can like pre-cook eggs, add extra egg whites. You can put beans.
No promises though.
If you have any, we'll just mute her. Okay. If you have any like breakfast meats, you just want to look at the nutrition facts label. Breakfast meats are not bad, but they tend to have a lot of fat along with them. So when you're at the grocery store looking at the different breakfast meats, look at the nutrition facts label and try to get the one with the lowest saturated fat. That's probably going to be like your leaner meats, like things like turkey sausage, even some like soy patties or like plant-based patties are going to have lower saturated fat. Those also tend to have a lot of sodium, which is not necessarily a problem for everybody, but something to just keep in mind as well. So those are kind of some breakfast ideas. And then having protein at your snacks is super important. So when you're snacking throughout the day, you want to plan this ahead of time. You want to have things that are available that you like to eat that are easy to grab. So snacking on things like edamame with the shell on, because it takes you longer to like open it, hard-boiled eggs, hummus, baby carrots, baby bell peppers, cherry tomatoes, celery sticks, nuts, dried fruit, fresh fruit. I always encourage people to have a combination of like protein and produce, or like protein and fruit or vegetable, protein and color with their snacks. So you can kind of pick and choose a couple that you like and add all that stuff to your grocery list so that you have like snacks ready to go. Rice cakes and peanut butter, or rice cakes or like crackers and hummus. The tuna packets I really like because that has like 15 to 20 grams of protein in those little tear tuna packets, and you can have those. They I think it's like, what is it, the not Sun-Kissed, that's orange juice, Star-Kissed, right? The tuna, or like Bumblebee, they have those tuna packets and they like pre-season them, so you can get like chipotle or like lemon herb. They have like all these really good flavors, and so you can have like the tuna packet with like some crackers or some veggies. It's a really good high protein snack. If you are, especially if you're like out and away from home, those are really good because they're like non-perishable, so you can take those with you. They're very portable. Other good snacks are things like Greek yogurt, again, smoothies, like kind of all the same like breakfasty foods I just mentioned. And then most people tend to do pretty well with their protein at their lunch and dinner. Things like fish, poultry, beef, pork, leaner cuts of beef and pork. And then with like ground meat, you always want to look for like the leaner ground meat. So breakfast, make sure that you get your protein in. Snacks, make sure that you get your protein in. And like lunch and dinner, people usually tend to be better about the protein, but yeah, breakfast. Does anybody else have any breakfast protein suggestions? Put them in the chat box, like what you guys have for your protein source for your, like with your breakfast or in the morning. Good question. So somebody asked about a protein bar as a snack. So my personal philosophy and opinion on convenience foods is that they should be saved for emergencies. So I think that you will better serve yourself if you most of the time have whole food. So if you're at home or working from home, or if you go to your workplace and you have like a refrigerator or somewhere where you can like keep like an insulated lunch bag, bring food, like actual food. Because if you think about it, like think of a Cliff Bar or a protein bar. You can eat that in like a couple, or like I really like Kind bars, but like just think of any type of bar. You can eat that in like just a couple bites. And it's, the size of it is not that big and not that satisfying, versus if you were to eat and have to actually chew your food, take the time to eat something like baby carrots and hummus, or the tuna packet with crackers. Those, and the food has a whole host of nutrients that you're not necessarily getting from the small snack bar. So, or like protein bar. And those also have other ingredients in them to like preserve them so that they have a long shelf life. And I just try to minimize in general the amount of preservatives I put in my body, because preservatives preserve food, but they don't preserve humans. They're not necessarily good in large quantities to be eating a lot of processed food. So the protein bars are definitely a choice. I have some that I keep on hand, but I use them as like my emergency backup. And I always try to eat whole food if it's available, if I can bring it with me, or if I'm at home. I always try to have those whole food sources that are unprocessed and are like a larger volume that I'm eating, because it's so much more satisfying and I'm getting a lot more nutrition. So I hope that that answered your question about, can you have a protein bar for a snack? So yes, you can, but I recommend trying to save those for situations when you're out stuck in traffic and you're not going to make it to, you know, your the next meal or something like that, and you're like super starving and you're hungry and you're hangry. It's like, okay, if you're out stranded, then protein bar is, that's the emergency, and then you're glad that you threw it in your purse or your car. Let's see, what other questions do you guys have for me? Okay, so body composition, losing fat, eat protein at all of your meals. The other thing that's actually not food related, but it is to make sure that you are moving your body all throughout the day. So our NXPT workouts are about 45 minutes and it's totally calorie burning, total good workout. But if you're only working out and moving your body for 45 minutes or 1 hour of the day, what are you doing for the 23 remaining hours of the day? If you're just going and sitting, if you have a sedentary job or you're not moving around a lot, you're not expending a lot of calories. And so it's important to get up frequently throughout the day and not be sitting for long periods of time. A lot of people have like wearable fitness devices that will remind you to like get up and move and count your daily steps. And so look and see how many steps you're getting now. Try to increase that. Try to not sit for long periods of time. And that will really increase your calorie burn a lot more than you would think. So make sure that you're moving more than just the 1 hour of the NXPT classes. Other food tips for promoting fat loss are going to be not only having protein with all of your meals, but really filling up on fruits and vegetables, because those foods have a very high water content and a very high fiber content. And so they fill you up for less calories. And so when you are kind of creating a meal, make sure that you always have some sort of color or some sort of produce. So protein and color, or protein and produce, I like to say. And that means that when you go to the grocery store, like a lot of the food in your cart should be color. We're coming up on spring and summer, so we live in California, so we have a lot of good fresh food options, but frozen fruit, frozen vegetables are good options as well. Same thing as like dried fruit. Just be mindful of the portion size, because if you think about it, like how many like whole grapes are in like a cup, and then think about how many raisins you can fit in a cup, like how many like grapes that is. And so when you're having dried fruit, the portion size needs to be smaller. but all types of fruits and vegetables, everything's fair game, even like canned, beans are really good and all that. So get your color in, your veggies in, your fruit in, and focus on the protein and produce, because that's going to fill you up and keep you fuller for longer. Another thing that helps to fill you up that is important in small amounts is like healthy fat. So I always say that fat should flavor your food. It shouldn't be like the main entree, but you can have fat with your meal to help flavor your food. Fat is also important to help absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So it's really good to have like avocado and nuts and seeds on your salads, because those fats and salad dressing, because those healthy fats from those sources help your body to absorb the nutrition, the nutrients from the salad. So having your meals spaced out through the day is another important thing, because we all know what happens if we wait too long to eat. We get too hungry and then we tend to overeat. And so it's important to make sure that you are planning your meals, planning for snacks. Don't go more than 4 or 5 hours between eating, because then you might overeat later. Look at your day, look at your schedule, and kind of see like, when are you most active during the day, and make sure that you have meals and snacks surrounding that time. Food is our body's fuel. So kind of like a car runs on gasoline, our body runs on food. And so nobody would ever get in a car to drive somewhere without any gas and then fill up once they got there. So similarly, you want to make sure that you're eating food throughout the day, eating surrounding the most active parts of your day, whether that's a workout or what time of day you have to be like most like cognitive, have like the most cognitive function. You want to make sure that you're having meals and snacks around that time, because if you are not eating all day long and then have a huge meal at night and then go right to bed, that's not really helping with your energy levels, not only your physical performance, but also your mental performance as well. We have any other questions? Drop them in the chat box. This Zoom is going to probably kick us off in about 5 or maybe 10 more minutes. So I'll just kind of keep chatting. If you guys have any other questions, just drop them below. So we talked a lot about like losing body fat and kind of what the nutrition things that you can do to get there. But what really I think people should focus on is building and maintaining their muscle. And so what you want to do there is, number one, you have to go to the workouts and lift weights. Lifting weights, having resistance training, strength training is what stimulates our body to create muscle tissue and to build, repair, maintain our muscle tissue. Lifting weights won't make you huge and bulky and look like a guy. Lifting weights will make you look toned and strong, and it will burn your body fat. So lifting weights in the gym, increasing your weight as you're able to, that will really help to support your muscle and your strength, and you'll just feel really good. You'll be able to kind of move through all of your daily activities and functions, and you'll just feel awesome. You can carry all your grocery bags inside in one trip, and you'll feel like a superhuman. And then when it comes to nutrition, you need to be making sure that you're eating enough protein, specifically like animal proteins that have leucine in them. So like dairy products, Greek yogurt is really good, eggs, chicken, fish, all of that. And then you have to be eating enough calories. So our body has the ability to build muscle tissue, but it also takes energy to do that. And so you need to not only eat protein, but you also need to eat enough carbohydrate and enough calories overall so that your body has the energy to build and repair your muscle. So pre-workout, the main ingredient in pre-workout and why people take it is because it has caffeine in it. And so caffeine, I love caffeine. Caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. And so what caffeine does is it makes you feel awake and alert, but it doesn't provide you with any actual energy. Only food does that. So people take pre-workout because it makes them feel awake and alert. And another thing that caffeine does is it makes exercise feel easier. And so people take it as a pre-workout because it kind of psychs them up, gets you ready to go, and it helps with the perceived exertion of your workout. So pre-workout supplements are going to really widely vary in the amount of caffeine that's in them. And caffeine affects everybody differently. So there are people that are slow metabolizers of caffeine, and you'll know if you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine because you like won't even be able to like smell coffee or a Red Bull, or you like will be awake for 3 days. Or if you happen to ingest caffeine, you will be running right to the bathroom and have like GI distress. So if those symptoms sound like you, then there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that your body metabolizes caffeine very slowly. And so caffeine could actually negatively affect you and negatively affect your performance, because if you are getting really jittery, if it gives you like anxiety, if you're having GI distress, like obviously that is doing more harm than good. On the other hand, if you are a fast caffeine metabolizer, you will also know that this is you if you can drink like a triple shot of espresso and go at 11 p.m. and then go straight to bed, right? Like caffeine does not affect you. And so if you are a fast caffeine metabolizer, then you probably would benefit from having like pre-workout or having caffeine before your workout. You just want to make sure that the dose is appropriate for your body size. So the amount of caffeine is going to be listed in milligrams on the pre-workout supplement label. So I would recommend starting with like 50 to 100 milligrams of caffeine and seeing how that affects you. They recommend not to exceed 400 milligrams of caffeine in an entire day. And so depending on how much is in your pre-workout supplement, how many times a day you're working out, you can potentially take pre-workout like more than once a day. I just would not exceed 400 milligrams of caffeine in 24 hours. And if caffeine is keeping you up at night and affecting your sleep, then that's not a good thing. And then I would cut back or make sure that you give yourself what's called a caffeine curfew. So you're not having caffeine after like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. because you don't want it to keep you up at night and affect your sleep. So there's a question about dietary supplements. What dietary supplements should you be taking? So that's very individualized. And what I like to say actually is that some supplements work for some people some of the time. Most supplements don't work for anybody any of the time. And dietary supplements are just that. They're a supplement to your diet. And so what you first should do is you first should look to build, like, pretend like you're building a pyramid, right? You want to build a strong foundation. So you want to have your food be the foundation of your diet, and you want to get as many nutrients as you can from the foods that you're eating. Now, for certain people that choose not to eat animal products or have other dietary restrictions, then like a supplement might be necessary to supplement things that are missing from the diet. So in those cases, that would be, like an individualized thing, depending on the food that you are choosing to eat or choosing to avoid. There's another kind of class of dietary supplements that are called ergogenic aids. And what ergogenic means is that it provides some like physical performance enhancing benefit. So for example, caffeine is actually considered an ergogenic aid, right? Because it makes you feel awake and alert, and it makes exercise feel easier. So that gives you a benefit when it comes to your workout. Other dietary supplements, there's like a couple other, and it's just really on an individual basis whether that might work for you or not. Because just as I explained with the caffeine, that like some people are slow metabolizers, some people are fast metabolizers, every single dietary supplement, what I do with my one-on-one clients is the supplements that they're taking, I go through one by one, and I evaluate them and see, you know, are they safe? Are they effective? Are they taking the right dose? What's the cost? And we kind of go through like this whole assessment to see like if the supplements are necessary for them. So there are no, to give you the quick answer, there are no dietary supplements that I just blanket recommend for everybody. It's a very individualized thing. Multivitamins have not been shown to help anybody for anything unless you have, like, again, huge gaps in your diet or things that you're like completely like, if you have a very like restrictive diet. But it's best to get most of your nutrients from food. Protein powder, I would say, is one dietary supplement that is not necessary for everybody, but it's very popular and very common, and it's a good convenience food that can add protein to you know, your meals and snacks very easily. I recommend 100% whey isolate protein powder or an isolate concentrate blend. I personally like the brand Ascent Protein, but there are tons out there. You can get the protein powder, the whey protein powder from Costco is another good one. Whey digests and absorbs very quickly, and so it's really good for right after your workout, getting protein back in your body. There are a lot of plant-based proteins out there. Those tend to have more ingredients, and they have to kind of blend different plant proteins together to get the same amount of protein that you would get from the whey. So plant proteins are, the source is going to be from like soy or pea protein. And really what matters the most when it comes to protein powder is, do you like the taste of it? And so what I recommend, if you can, is like, especially if you're getting them from like Amazon, is to get the little single serve, like little small packets before you buy like a huge 5-pound like tub of something, and just get the small packets and like try them out and see if you even like the flavor. Because with whey protein powder or plant-based protein powder and food, like if you don't like the taste of it, you're not going to eat it. So make sure that you like the flavor, and I would recommend getting the small sample sizes before you commit to the whole big 5-pound tub. What other questions do you have for me? These are good ones. What supplements have you heard that you should be taking, or what has been marketed to you? Let me know and I'll chime in on what I think about them. I think for the most part, just eat your nutrients, balanced diet, get in your protein, carbohydrate, and fruits and vegetables at your meals and snacks, and drink enough water. How's everybody doing with their water intake? Starting to warm up, it's a little easier to drink water. So yeah, the multivitamin like probably isn't doing very much. I don't recommend supplementing iron unless you have a doctor's like prescription with blood work. Iron is something that can become toxic, and so I don't recommend supplementing that unless you know what your levels are and you know that you are low or deficient in iron. And then fat burners, again, what burns fat is exercise. And so no supplement is going to make a huge difference in your metabolism that is going to do anything more than what like regular exercise is going to do. Branched chain amino acids. So protein, you probably remember from like nutrition class long ago. So proteins are made up of amino acids, and there are a lot of amino acids. Some of them our body can actually make, and others our body can't make, and so we have to obtain them from food. And so the branched chain amino acids, those are some of those essential amino acids that we have to get from our food. So branched chain amino acids are naturally occurring in animal products. So again, your fish, your meat, your poultry have very high amounts of branched chain amino acids. So we're getting those when we're eating like a variety of foods. They make branched chain amino acid supplements. However, the research has shown that they do not do anything when it comes to performance. The thought was if you drink branched chain amino acids before you work out, your body isn't going to burn your muscle. However, depending on the length of your workout, when you're consuming the branched chain amino acids prior to that, it's might not even be getting to like the time that it takes to digest and absorb. It might not even be getting to the muscle. And what we know is most important about not burning your muscle is to be eating like enough calories and eating enough meals and snacks throughout the day. So I would say when it comes to branched chain amino acids and fat burners, to save your money for a vacation, multivitamin is not harming you, but it's probably not doing a ton either. And then the iron I would not take without knowing what your blood levels are. Muscle recovery. So the best thing to do for muscle recovery is have adequate rest days, adequate sleep, and then have a meal or a snack with protein, fluid, carbohydrate within an hour of working out. So something like a smoothie with either Greek yogurt or whey protein powder and like frozen fruit, or having your breakfast or any meal right after or snack right after your workout. So having like your eggs and toast and avocado, or having lunch meal or dinner meal, depending on the time of day that you are working out. Okay, we only have about 90 seconds. And then another question was about L-carnitine. So again, that's something that is touted to like increase fat burning and kind of target your metabolism. But again, like what's going to move the needle the furthest is going to be regular exercise, not sitting all day, making sure that you're getting up and moving throughout the day, 10,000 steps, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but make sure that you're moving throughout the day, getting in a lot of even just walking, showing up to the gym regularly, giving yourself enough rest and time off, and then nutrition. So those are the things that are going to make the biggest impact when it comes to weight loss and fat loss specifically. So I think we have like less than 60 seconds left. I don't have the timer anymore. It just says less than 1 minute. So I am going to wrap up and sign off. But thanks you guys for all the great questions. That was super good that you had so many good questions for me. I enjoyed that. So if you have any other questions, you can find me in the gym or